Welcome to all signs. This is a collective read, and this is Regina from Pacific Tarot, getting ready to talk about the prompting for this particular reading. I was moved by a dream that I had last night, wherein I was moving through all these spaces, and in each space I moved through, I lost something or something was taken from me, yet nothing that I lost prevented me from moving forward, doing what I needed to do. It's interesting because I noted that this dream was a dream about, for me, belonging. And in every space I was in, I was a guest. And at no time did anyone touch me, let alone hug me or dance with me, because I was in a variety of different environments in which I could have done those things, even shaking hands. Yet things were removed from my body without my awareness of them. And in each case, I went searching for that thing, only to abandon it, releasing it, and moving on. And ultimately, my goal was to return home. So this is prompting this particular collective dream. Perhaps this is going to reveal itself to be about our belonging, where we fit in a world where, for many of us, those of you that I'm speaking to today, did not have a sense of fitting into or belonging or being included into spaces where you found yourselves. This can even be a sense of outsideness from a family of origin. And while I was meditating before this reading, I'm a visual person. I respond very much to colors, and my meditations between my throat chakra and heart chakra lit up to a beautiful luminous turquoise color that was precisely in between those two chakras. And it was in a place that I once learned long ago was called by the Buddhists high heart knowing space. This is a place in between, naturally, the heart and the throat, in between a sense of inclusion, belonging, giving and receiving love, to the way that we express that or tell our story. So these are the energies that are coming to me that are prompting me to do this reading, and I may extend this to all signs. I'm not sure right now. So we're going to get started with the overall energy, which is the Three of Swords. And the sword talks very much about taking responsibility for a behavior that you've identified in your life that has seemed to repeat a pattern of pain, a pattern of heartbreak, a pattern of rejection. And so this feels very accurate to the energy that I'm channeling, and a reflection of my own journey to understand better why one would continue to repeat and invite opportunities that are leading to a rejection, and then a sense of being wronged, excluded, mistreated, and heartbroken. It's interesting because this is a pattern that those of you I'm reading for have begun to understand in your life, that heartbreaks are a part of something that we continue to choose, as though we're choosing others over ourselves. We're looking for validation from others, and instead, because we don't validate ourselves, we meet up with this rejection, this sense that someone else doesn't want us, we're not included in something we want to belong in, or we feel outside the experiences of others, as though they don't get us. And this is part of a cycle in which you give your power away, you offer up the gifts of yourself as a way of being a part of something that does not match what you're experiencing on the inside. And this arises often from an experience in childhood or in your family of origin. This could even be a reflection of past lives experiences where you felt different. You didn't feel as though you were resonating with the family story or environment in some way. You felt outside. I'm going to go through past, present, and future a little bit out of order. I usually like to start with the present, and we have the beautiful Sun card. This is stunning. This is describing the purpose, the point of this journey that is ramping up for you in some way. This is a journey that you have been on for a while. In other words, the repetitive pattern that leads to heartbreak or pain, suffering, and then the actual awareness begins to evolve where you understand that this is something that you are choosing rather than something that is happening to you. And that the choosing this is helping you to understand better, in this particular case, your soul's purpose, your journey. There's an unlocking something about your childhood experience, a place where for many of you, a joy was experienced that others couldn't partake in. You were able to see perhaps through a timeline where you actually chose your family situation. And in that moment of childhood, in a sense, we're still carrying our soul's imprint. The oversoul is not so far away that we don't recall that we came here on purpose. We chose this family for a purpose. We may even at the time of, at this particular time in our lives, and I'm talking pre-reading and writing, pre-literate for some of you, that you recognize connections in your family from former lives, that you may have been connected to your parents, you may have been parenting your parents in a former life, or they may have had some distinct relationship to you, or you may understand that you have soul contracts with individuals within your family. So there is a sort of empowerment in your childhood that you are recalling, or that is visiting you as a way of piercing to that moment of joy, the freedom, the liberation of childhood, where if only in your own imagination you could experience connections, fulfillment, joy, a sense of boundarylessness, limitlessness, and how much joy those connections, those realizations, particularly if you're someone who was able to connect with familiars, animals, different kinds of elemental creatures or beings, that gave you a sense of joy and connection to the earth in a way that you weren't always feeling it clearly in your present relationships. So that sense of belonging that may have been lacking in your early childhood was in some way comforted or soothed by these connections that you were able to make with other forms of life, other connections to the natural world. In the past, the Three of Swords emerges as an indication to me that this is the sense of belonging, the sense of appreciation for the pain and suffering that you now recognize as a pattern that you're responsible for is something that you've been working on for a while. It is perhaps a more recent heartache or the series of heartaches or betrayals that you've experienced in relationships and in the world. This is not just relationships, this is any sense of failure, any sense of disappointment that you have judged about yourself or your experience that you're trying to understand and unlock that seems impossible given the skills, capacity, the visions that you have, why no one else seems, you don't seem to find that sense of success or empowerment reflected in your relationships. You often play the victim, even when you see the futility of that in a relationship. You feel aligned or codependent with others in a way that leaves you empty, leaves you in pain. And you've been looking at those experiences and coming to a place of understanding that indeed these relationships, these experiences of failure and disappointment had to be, were purposeful, were destined so that you could learn something about yourself that is necessary in identifying your soul purpose, something about who you are not, what you need and what you don't need in order to exercise the sense of uh, uh, deeper connection with the planet, with your community, with the world, and ultimately with the service that you're here to render. In the future, we have the Warrior of Swords. This is like the Knight of Swords, and it is describing a way that you have been in. It feels like an ongoing state. Although this is in the future, I feel that this represents an opening up to a superpower you have that allows you to identify what isn't working, to challenge, poke holes in assumptions that we have about the way things are supposed to be. And this can be a skill that you've exercised in certain limited spaces in your life that has in many ways outed you as someone who others don't want to include. If you're some kind of a truth teller, there's a way that you are punished by being excluded from certain circles. It's also a way that you've come to understand how what you believe, your illusions, your visions, your sense about the way things were supposed to go, the narrative of your life. This can be a family story, a generational story, is false in some way, is empty in some way, is generated more by your expectation than it is by the truth. And now you're understanding that you can use this skill, this truth telling, to explore the value of the suffering you've experienced. Not the suffering in and of itself, but the lessons you've learned from that suffering, from that pain. Understanding that not only are you clear about your own skills, your own purpose, your own direction, but that you are, in fact, moving closer to a sense of gratitude that these things occurred at all. Taking responsibility for your own stubbornness, your own willingness to cling to things that were not for you because that's the way everyone else did it. That's the way your parents expected you to do it. That's the way the social story goes. And despite your discomfort or your ability to see through that, you kept trying to conform. You kept trying to be a part of the family story until it once again and again and again failed you. So instead of ignoring this incredible quality you have, you are leaning into it. You're recording your experiences in some way. You're documenting them in some way. It can be creatively. It can be a way that you've learned to work in a place of your work, a skill that you have that you now recognize that has been reflected back to you that has inspired others. And in fact, if you go back to some of those experiences that you felt pushed out of, you will see that you perhaps had a very positive influence, or someone has come back to tell you about a time when you were working together and your role, which seemed rebellious, it seemed critical, it seemed to be poking holes in the collective goal, actually was something that they internalized and in your absence began to exercise similarly. So that truth-telling role has had already a major impact on your life, but only now are you beginning to understand its value, not only for others, but for you. I'm going to pull an oracle card, and out pops, these have all been pre-shuffled, but out pops the service card. I feel good when I can help others. And this is describing both the impulse that you have had to continue to stay included, to try and conform to the families, the environments, the workplaces, the teams that you've been a part of, even when you saw some oversight or some flaw in the design or the proposal. So there's something about how you understand the structure of things in a way that others may not. And in that way, because you understood at some level that your role was to help, because it feels so good to you to help others, you stayed in places where you didn't really belong, or you couldn't render the service that you wanted to render. You couldn't be the help that you wanted to be. So this is clarifying as well. I'm going to pull my beloved crystal oracles because I love them so much. And we're going to describe the Sun card, and look at that. And I pulled the Azurite, and it reads, the keywords are expanded awareness. My awareness is expanding with an abundance of clarity. So I love that, in that this is really describing to me not only the sense of clarity that the sun illuminates and enlightens, but enlightenment in a number of different ways. The enlightenment of your expanded consciousness, your evolving soul's growth from this inner child that is grasping for the liberation into a state of joy, of sacred appreciation for the abundance of the world. What that privilege is. You're awakening to the fact that you are an empowered being, that you are a privileged being who has elected to come and perform some service for others, and that that requires a high degree of refinement on your part. And it also highlights the notion that as a truth teller, that this has helped you to wend your way through some very murky, challenging, difficult situations in which you desperately felt that you didn't have enough, that you weren't enough, that if you were more powerful, if you knew more, if you were more, you wouldn't be dependent on others in the way that you are. This is helping to clarify that your dependence is in the effort of creating relationship and deeper connection. And that's what you're always straining for, is deeper connection. So this is important as you move forward, that you can't stop telling the truth, even if it's your truth, which is the only truth there is for you. That's the only truth you can share. And it isn't that you're trying to impose your truth on others. It's that in exhibiting and modeling your process of illumination, of enlightenment, that you are showing that, modeling that for others to see. They can draw their own conclusions based on their own life experiences, their own purposes, their own goals. But the process of looking within to understand the mechanism that is being reflected in the outer world is essential to being productive, efficient, to building up a body of knowledge. There's something here about your desire to know, to quest for more. I'm going to finish up this reading with an talisman oracle. I couldn't think of the name of it. And I pulled intuition. So this is incredibly pertinent to this message because it's describing this powerful skill that you came into the world with, this power, if you will, this heightened sensitivity to everything. And I have no doubt that this is a power, an aspect of your own development that was maligned, or that made it difficult sometimes for you to be in the world and feel safe. There's a great sense that you needed a lot of personal space, needed a lot of retreat time. You might have spent a lot of time drawing or reading as a young person, comfortable in your own room, mimicking the habits perhaps of a parent or a sibling that did the same, that found refuge in reading, in the stories of other lives, other places, and that also helped to build your powers of intuition, your powers of perception, and that intuition is something that you now recognize as the foundation upon which your spiritual awareness and your consciousness is expanding. So, because swords are so strong here, the sense of intellectual inquiry is also an incredible part of this message. And those of you that I'm speaking to, you may have had great success with studies, with school, with academia, with learning, because of this scholarly temperament that others identified in your need to be alone, particularly with books, with drawing, with art, ways that you meditated at a certain level and that found success in a school environment where you were rewarded for your ability to inquire, to investigate, to want to know. And that wanting to know was endless. You may have been marked by that. Less academic excellence than the power of your inquiring mind. And this is important because this is what is helping to open you up now, open you up to the clarity of your intention, strengthening your meditation practices, understanding that as you think, so shall you experience, so shall you be. And that connection between taking responsibility for your reality and understanding that you create that. I'm going to leave this particular reading here. I would love to know your comments, how this is resonating for you. And as always, until next time, namaste.